Welcome to No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I'm your host, Rick Becker, co-host Lori Hintz.
How you doing?
Yeah, I know you're excited tonight.
I am. I'm very, very excited. I think a lot of this woman, so I'm looking forward to talking to her tonight. Ronna McDaniel from the RNC, the chairwoman of the entire RNC, is on our show.
Republican National Committee.
Yes, I should.
So it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal. All right, but before that, I've got a little topic I wanted to talk about. A couple things that tie in together. One of them is very recent news. One is a couple months ago, but they tie together. And it has to do with COVID money to the states. And so pull up the first graphic for me, if you would. The Ohio Attorney General has challenged Biden with his COVID-19 relief bill. And it's very interesting because there's this aspect to what is it that we can do with the money and what are our limitations. So there's a lawsuit about that. The reason that there's even a concern or question about it is because what you see here on this graphic is very specifically the states got more money than they needed. So now suddenly it's like, wow, we can do all sorts of stuff with it. So let's pick this apart first. The COVID relief money for the states, this governing article says, yes, the U.S. states did get more money from Washington than they needed. It's a very good article. I
see that it's from Governing. I'm not familiar with that.
Yes, Governing. I get the newsletter, and it's from just 3 days ago. This is the outfit that Clay Jenkinson writes for. That I like a lot of his articles.
Yeah,
right.
You've talked about that.
Here it says, the most recent infusion of money comes from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, which was President Biden's COVID-19 stimulus plan. States will get $195.3 billion over the next year in very flexible funds that they can use on any health care costs or to offset any negative economic effects of COVID-19. And again, as always, I will correct that to say any economic effects from the government overreach of COVID-19. Yes.
Right.
In addition, states can use the money for infrastructure like water, wastewater, broadband access, things like that.
I'm getting a red flag on the wastewater. I really am. I'm just telling you, do not say wastewater to me. I'm triggered.
Right.
That is not cool.
No COVID testing there.
Nope.
But there are two restrictions that are placed on this. It's a ton of money. It is a ton of money.
Yep.
North Dakota has $1.9 billion from one specific part of the plan.
Wow.
That's a huge amount of money. And we got all sorts of unemployment money from it. We've got the local entities got money, business.
Everybody.
All of the states, and especially North Dakota, are awash in COVID money. But there's two restrictions on how the money can be spent. It can't be used to decrease taxes, and it can't be used to increase the health of pension plans. So a lot of, including North Dakota, a lot of states are in a little bit of trouble because they're upside down, and the future liabilities are very concerning because these are future pensions that you're already contracted to pay. Some states are in much bigger trouble than North Dakota,
right.
And the problem is they can't use those funds to pay those off. So those are the two restrictions. They have to figure out how they're going to spend the money by the end of 2024, and the money has to be spent by the end of 2026. So that actually gives you time. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing, I'll just give you a little insight. For North Dakota, in our state legislature, it was very interesting. When this money was coming in, there were a lot of legislators, a lot from Bismarck specifically, and then also Fargo, that were like, we want to know how much is coming in because we've got plans for it. We want to spend it, boom, 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 boom. The House Appropriations Chair Jeff Delzer was like, we don't know what restrictions. Let's just hold our horses here a little bit. Very interesting to watch the big spenders clawing to try and get to that money as fast as possible. So anyway, that's just a little inside baseball there. One of the things that is so interesting about this, that the states are getting so much excess money, is because the effects of COVID economically are not nearly as bad as people were expecting. For energy states like North Dakota, for one thing, oil rebounded very quickly.
Right,
and we knew it was going to rebound to some degree, but and I actually, technically, from what I predicted, it rebounded slower. I thought it was going to go a little bit quicker, yeah. But overall, people were saving instead of spending. People continued to work. They just did it remotely overall, except for those, restaurants and bars and the poor folks that work there. But overall, for society as a whole, making a lot of money, saving it, and now they're spending it, and that increases the economy. So the economy in the various states, and especially North Dakota, think about our economy. We're not down. Despite the fact that Burgum closed us down for 6 weeks and then put on all sorts of restrictions and silly things like that.
We do have a little issue with hiring people right now. We're having a hard time filling a lot of positions, but that is technically a good thing because that means the businesses come back.
Well, that's true. That is very true. And so predictions for the economy are expected to be pretty good for the next few quarters. So that's where states are not in nearly as bad a shape. The federal government just made money out of thin air, a ton of it, and threw it at the states. North Dakota especially, our economy is great, oil recovered, but we still have a ton of money. Now, interestingly, I would normally say, well, we shouldn't take it.
Right.
But the problem is the federal government is creating it out of nothing, and they're going to spend it. Everything they do with something COVID or some stimulus plan, if you don't take it, if you don't use it, they reuse it somewhere else. It's gone. It's done. I'm thinking that the state may as well take it. If nothing else, to pay down the things that cause us to be beholden to the federal government. Anyway, so let's go to the next graphic. I want to pop in there. So we've got, go ahead, guys. I'm sorry, I passed over that little quote. I'm just chugging along here. So here's that Ohio GOP. So there is a lawsuit. The Attorney General prevailed in a lawsuit. The federal judge ruled that the federal government overstepped in saying that you cannot spend this money to decrease your taxes or stabilize your pension plans.
Wow.
It's a huge, huge victory for states' rights. Huge victory for states' rights. And the Attorney General is Dave Yost for Ohio. And so he's pretty darn happy about it. One of the things that's interesting about it is that it says you cannot decrease taxes directly or indirectly. Now, there's a term called fungible, meaning that the money, and that's what I always talk about in government. They say, oh no, this money's for this, or this money's for that, or it's not costing you anything because it's coming from the legacy fund earnings. It's fungible. If you're taking it from here,
so it's not earmarked for one particular thing. You can use it and shift it.
So the thing is, if you can decrease taxes because you use the money for all sorts of infrastructure, that would be indirect. So it doesn't even make any sense. But they are, the judge ruled that it exceeds Congress's power. In fact, there's a quote here from the Attorney General. This is a great quote. He says, the progressives are going to be howling right now because they don't like the idea that the federal government can't tell Ohio what to do with its tax policy, but they'll be quoting this decision soon enough to a Republican president who might want to tell a blue state how to run their state.
Wow.
Very, very well said, I think. So one more article that I wanted to bring up with regard to this, and this is 13 states sue the Biden administration over tax cut restrictions with their $1.9 trillion spending package. One of the states are calling it one of the most egregious power grabs by the federal government. And what they're looking at is that it violates the 10th Amendment, the conditional spending doctrine, and something I talk about a lot in the legislature, the anti-commandeering doctrine. So states that are involved include a number of states, including our neighbors, South Dakota and Montana. And again, there's West Virginia, Alabama, Arkansas, Alaska, Florida, Iowa, Kansas, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, Utah. Why is North Dakota not in there?
I know.
Let me tell you why. Because our elected officials, our governor, doesn't seem to care about state sovereignty, about anti-commandeering doctrine. We should be out in the forefront. We should definitely be there saying, this is it, you can't do it. And think about this, folks. If these win, that COVID money could be used for a tax holiday so no one pays income taxes for a couple of years. Or it could be used to buy down the pensions, make them 100%.
Yeah.
It could be used for, but nope. Certain legislators just want to spend it on all their pet projects, which drives me nuts. I hope these lawsuits continue to be victorious, and maybe that will cause North Dakota to be a little bit more, introspective with their spending. All right, next up, Ronna McDaniel. I'm so excited, folks. Stick with us.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
Go for Launch 2018 series winner. Without further ado, it is my honors. Reginald. The winning team is the Flumin River Excellence.
Oh my God!
They won!
All right, folks, we are back. It's No Apologies on Beck, and Lori and I are so very happy to welcome Ronna McDaniel, chair of the Republican National Committee. Wonderful guest, and very, very happy to have you on, Ronna. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Lori, our National Committee woman from North Dakota, and Rick, thank you. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Yes, well, once Lori told me that she set her mind to having you on, I knew it was going to happen eventually. So it's good to see you.
You know Lori. Okay, anybody? I know Lori too. This was going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the stuff that is really on everybody's mind right now. First of all, I would like your take on the cancel culture and the defunding of the police, and we're going to go back, and then we'll come to more current stuff as we go along. But the hypocrisy is just so unbelievable, and it's such a bad idea. We in North Dakota, we back the blue. We're really, really good about that here. They've saved us from a terrible protest that we had, and everybody was great. Our blue was just fantastic. And so we're not like that too much in North Dakota, but the rest of the country is really struggling with this defunding of police stuff.
Well, it's something being championed by the Democrats all the way up to Kamala Harris, the vice president. Even Joe Biden said we need to redirect funds. Okay, so this is a centerpiece of Democrats, the Democrat Party right now. And I think it goes further than just defunding the police. It's demoralize the police, demean the police. So not only are they taking away funds, but you also have a record number of police quitting or retiring and less people signing up. So what's happening as a result? Crime rates are spiking. We're seeing huge increases in homicide rates, robberies. Police are not there to enforce many of these crimes in major cities, and it's really hurting communities across this country. And this is directly because of Democrat policies. And I'll just add one other thing, because I think this is important in North Dakota. They also want to take our right to bear arms away. So not only do they want to take away the police, they also want to take away our ability to defend ourselves without law enforcement. And it's funny how all these politicians and celebrities who are so into defunding the police, they have full-time security. They have the means to take care and protect themselves. But business owners in these big cities who are being looted, families who really need that protection are being hurt the worst through these failing Democrat policies.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, I was thinking also, too, about ICE, and look what the Biden administration has done to ICE. Talk about demoralizing when they're cutting staff down there where you really, really need it. Now, I have some friends, and they've actually been calling me from the Rio Grande Valley, and they're like, this is what's going on. And somebody said, I've heard anecdotal stories about, like, coyotes giving people burner phones with GPS where to go. They give them a wire cutter. They go through all of these fences. They're ruining these poor ranchers' livelihoods. They're stealing their vehicles, and it's far more reaching than just even with the ICE people, because unfortunately the locals are really, really suffering down there.
Yeah, so let's look at some of the rhetoric on ICE. I mean, you've seen Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez compare them to Nazis. I mean, it's been really, really divisive rhetoric against people who are protecting our border and doing their job as law enforcement. So it is sad to see that, but beyond that, I just interviewed Governor Abbott in Texas. They've had an 800% increase in fentanyl crossing their border. He said no single person is coming across this border who is not being brought through by the cartels and having to pay the cartels. Women and children are facing all types of abuse as they are making these journeys. And you know who supports Republicans and saying we want our borders to be secure and have law and order at our borders? Hispanic Americans. And we saw that in this last election where we had huge increases along Texas and counties like Zapata County, and 90% Hispanic county that went Republican for the first time since the 1920s, because Hispanic Americans understand the importance of sound immigration and sound immigration policy. And Democrats have just thrown it out the window, and they don't care. And they're not only putting these ICE agents at risk and these communities at risk, they're putting the people who are trying to come here at risk by creating this magnet that's turned on with no mechanism to control these people coming across our border illegally.
Yeah, it is frightening. And of course, you segued perfectly into voting, too.
No, absolutely. Ronna, I just want to ask you a quick question. Both of these topics that you've mentioned, defunding the police, total lack of control of our border, to me, it seems that it's handing you a gift on a silver platter, the RNC, and because what they're doing is espousing policies that really only the fringe, far left, are going to want to see passed. But your basic people, and especially Hispanics, to me, it seems that they are going to lose dramatically a lot of voters. I am sure that you are looking at strategy and how can you capitalize to show these people, not to change the message, but to show them what we as Republicans have to offer is actually going to bring them up and make their world better. Is that a specific strategy that the RNC is looking at?
Absolutely. And there's a couple things there, Rick, and I appreciate you bringing that up. One, there is a contrast between the Trump administration, what happened with many of these communities where you had record low unemployment in the Asian, Hispanic, and African American communities. They knew that wages were going up in their communities. They knew that policies that Trump was putting in place were actually lifting up their families and allowing them to access the American dream, things like school choice, so many things that Trump did. And now under Biden, it's open borders. We're seeing a huge increase in gas prices, increase at the grocery store, inflation coming in because of bad fiscal policy. We're seeing many, many Americans losing their businesses that they built because the government is paying people to stay home from work. So I think that we are seeing the beginning of what could be a wave election. I'm not going to knock on wood on that, but here's some precursors. We just picked up a mayor's seat in McAllen, Texas. This is a bellwether area of Texas. It flipped from Democrat to Republican. We picked up a House seat in Texas. 6 not picked up, but it was a toss-up. We got 2 Republicans through to the runoff. We're seeing this energy on the ground. And we're seeing new voters come to our party, and we're winning back some of these moderate Republicans who thought Biden was going to govern in the middle, and they're seeing how extreme he really is.
That is so true. It's nothing in the middle at all. It's totally left. It's very radical left. So let's talk about election integrity. So I was so pleased to be put onto this amazing committee for election integrity for the RNC. And I think that there is nothing more important in this country, to our country, than the integrity of our elections, making them free, fair, transparent, making it hard for people to cheat and easier for people to vote. Both of those things, that's what we want to do.
So true. And Lori, thank you for serving on this committee. Listen, we saw Democrats use COVID as an excuse to strip away safeguards to the election. And I'll give an example that I think is really easy to understand. Many, many states require that the first time you're going to vote absentee, you have to show up in person and show your voter ID to verify who you are. And many states waived that because of COVID. And it allowed safeguards to be removed. And we need to codify these safeguards into law so this can't happen again. And we also need to stand up for these state legislators that are doing this and taking this bold step, like Lori said, to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat.
Exactly. No, so true. And the recent polling also underscores that Americans largely agree with Republican things. I'm kind of laughing about the whole voter ID thing, because what's happened is Democrats are totally flip-flopping now. I mean, they're like, oh, you know what? I think the poll actually is not in our favor here. It's cracking me up.
Yeah, I mean, we just did a poll, and it was 31% Democrat, 30% independent, like the right balance, and 30-something% Republican. And across the board, and when I say across the board, in high 80s, people supported voter ID. People supported having bipartisan poll watchers. They supported having chain of custody and not having ballot harvesters collect thousands of ballots and removing safeguards to the election. They supported not having votes counted weeks after the election. These are things all Americans believe in, Democrat, Republican, every demographic. But it's interesting to see Democrats lie about this and put a racial edge on this and say this is racism and these are Jim Crow 2.0. It is divisive. It undermines the horror of racism, and it shows that they're not willing to talk about the issues without name calling. They're not willing to say, let's discuss each of these laws piece by piece, and they're lying. And President Biden yesterday gave a speech in Philadelphia, and he lied to the American people. And that's why we did, an ad last night during the All-Star game after they moved the game from Georgia to Colorado to pinpoint those lies cost the people of Atlanta $100 million in revenue because of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Raphael Warnock, Stacey Abrams. The Democrat Party is being divisive and using racism. You know why? All they care about is power. They don't care about elections being safe and secure and transparent. They only care about one thing. How do we garner more and more power?
Yep, exactly. Well, I hope we can hold you over for one more segment and talk to you in just a second. We'll talk about some other topics as well. Thanks.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Prairie Patriot Firearms and Training is the region's most complete gun and training center. 5-lane indoor range, a gun shop, and a certified training facility. Firearms training courses are offered daily for new, intermediate, and advanced shooters. If you're not comfortable in a classroom setting, Prairie Patriot offers one-on-one private lessons, from basic self-defense training to concealed weapons testing, along with a full line of guns, ammunition, holsters, and concealment clothing. Prairie Patriot, 3930 Memorial Highway, prairiepatriot.com.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York style pizza. We also feature gyros with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go. We deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
All right, we are back. It's No Apologies, your after-hours oasis of sanity. I'm your host, Rick Becker, co-host Lori Hintz, and our esteemed guest, Ronna McDaniel.
Get it right. Yeah,
it's a tough name. It's a tough name.
So we were talking about elections earlier, and I want to put in a quick plug for people to check out your new podcast. You've done 3 of them already. I think you started with Kristi Noem. You had Governor Abbott from Texas, and now you've done the 3rd one with Kellyanne Conway, who is, on Trump's polling staff and a counselor to the president. But she is an amazing pollster. She just really is. Oh. And it was so good. I have it on my Facebook page if anybody wants to see it, but it was really, really good.
Well, thank you. And part of what I enjoy so much as being chair of the RNC is I get to talk to people in a longer format and hear just so many amazing stories. So I wanted to bring this to the podcast so we could hear more than just like a 2-minute soundbite from some of these just great leaders. So I have one coming out next week with Mike Pompeo. You can get it on Spotify, GOP.com, everywhere. But the Kellyanne one I thought was really interesting because we go through a lot of these election integrity issues, the fact that the RNC was in over 50 lawsuits before the election, fighting for election integrity as Democrats were completely fighting to dismantle that. We won the majority of those. And then now we're in 19 lawsuits protecting these election laws that are being passed around the country. But we're watching Democrats try and remove safeguards to the election. And I don't know if many of your viewers know, Vermont actually just passed a law that allows non-citizens to vote in their elections.
I know,
That's
right?
how far they've gone.
I know, it's just ridiculous. That's so sad.
They deserve what they get. I don't know what that's
well, we're going to sue them too.
Good.
We're not going to settle for that. We're going to be, hey, Vermont, we're going to be suing you, FYI.
That is
nuts.
Now,
you alluded to it earlier. There was an RNC ad that ran in Major League Baseball that was talking about how Georgia just got the totally raw end of the deal for no reason whatsoever. Basically, there were some lies involved in what was said. And you did an op-ed recently, just I think yesterday, on Fox News that was fantastic, talking about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really tough to go. I went to Atlanta on Sunday to talk to these business owners. They were going to host the All-Star Game for the first time in 21 years. Many of these business owners had come out of the pandemic. They really needed that revenue for their restaurants, their hotels, people who work the concession stands. And then Joe Biden weighed in and said, I think the MLB should move the All-Star Game, and Stacey Abrams. And they lied about what was in this law. This law is so common sense. Voter ID, bipartisan poll watchers. It expands voting on Saturdays. It expands early voting, security for drop boxes. So many common sense measures. And it's so sad to watch the media and the corporate woke community and politicians on the Democrat side lie to the American people. And you know who lost? The people of Atlanta, the hardworking businessmen and women who lost that revenue. And it is a 51% Black city in Atlanta. It moved to a 76% white city in Denver. And on top of that, Colorado has more restrictive voting laws than Georgia. So the hypocrisy is so real. And we need to be looking through these lies that the Democrats are continuing to push out on laws that are really common sense to protect our elections.
You know, you brought up hypocrisy, and in the previous segment it was brought up as well, and you really cannot talk about the policies of the left without recognizing hypocrisy, because if they're consistent on one thing, it's being hypocritical. It's just phenomenal to me, and I think that's another thing that's going to drive voters away, because they want to belong to an organization that has at least some sense of integrity. So I think that's a further winning point for the Republican Party.
I do too. And I do think in this podcast I did with Kellyanne, she made at the point, if you can't have a conversation with me without calling me a name, if we can't have an intelligent conversation about the issues, what the merits are of having voter ID that we have to use to get on planes, to go to the White House. In most of our lives, we have to verify who we are. Why wouldn't we have to do this in this important thing called an election? So the fact that they resort to names shows that they don't have the facts on their side. They know the American people, if they heard the issues, would agree with Republicans. So they go divisive and they name call. And that's really bad for our country. And they continue to stoke division in a time where, boy, we could use some unity in our country.
That is all true.
Yeah.
So 2022, it looks good.
Yes.
Right? Are you bullish on 22? Because I'm.
Yeah, I mean, Lori, you know this, and you know this from the RNC meetings. The RNC has one job, really, in elections. We raise a lot of money, but we're out there registering voters right now, opening our minority engagement offices. We do so many things to turn out the vote. We turned out 75 million people in 2020 with President Trump leading the way. We picked up 15 House seats. We didn't lose a single incumbent. We're 50-50 in the Senate. And we picked up 135 state legislative seats. We are 5 seats away from retiring Nancy Pelosi.
Oh,
and
yeah.
1 seat away from retiring Chuck Schumer.
Yeah,
that makes me so happy at night. So we just need to make it happen. But it's not going to happen if we're fighting each other and attacking each other, which the media wants to amplify. We have to be reminding the American people of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are doing every day to dismantle our country. Things like stacking the Supreme Court and getting rid of the filibuster and keeping our borders open and getting rid of our energy independence and abandoning our ally in Israel and sacrificing our religious freedoms that we hold so dear, that our country was founded on. So many things are at stake in this election. So everyone needs to get engaged. The only way we lose is if people sit home.
Exactly. Well, in North Dakota, we voted 65.11% for Trump this one. So this is a really good state to be living in, because it's a very conservative state. We're very red. We have super majorities in both the House and the Senate in the state House. So yay, that's good. Now, if we could, turn that into tax relief, that'd be great. But we're in a really good position to be able to get out the vote. And I think people are really fired up this time too. They were grassroots before, but I think, the grassroots is really on fire right now to do something good this next 2022.
Well, I agree. I just thank you both for what you do. Thank you for your service to our party, to our country. You guys wear me out. So, but everyone get out and vote in 2022.
We will do that. Ronna, thank you.
Yes, you're doing a great job, Ronna. Thank you very much for being on with us. We appreciate it. Folks, we are going to be back in just a couple of minutes. Stick with us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
When you're buying windows, make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Hi, I'm Jesse with the Window Source. We only sell you the best windows and doors for the best price, Call the window source. Just because you pay less doesn't mean you get less.
Calling all farmers. Join us Friday, July 16th for Farmers Night at the Bismarck Bucks. The Bucks take on the Frisco Fighters with a 6:05 p.m. kickoff, and we'll highlight our friends at Farm Rescue as we help raise money to support our farmers around the region. For more information on tickets, please visit bismarckbucks.com. Get your free general admission tickets today.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Okay, we're back. It's No Apologies. Lori, good job. Thanks for getting Ronna on.
I was thrilled
How
to
can
have
I mess up McDaniel? What the hell is that?
I think that
McDaniel.
is... Okay, it's all right. You're fine. Okay. So our next segment tonight, we're going to talk about something that I just learned about. I'd never heard this term before. It's called swatting. You know, to me, that's, you know, what your dad does to you if you're being dumb. But swatting is a new trend, and it's fairly new, like within the last 4 or 5 years that it's come into the forefront. And I saw a video about swatting, and I thought, well, you know what, maybe I'm going to share this information so that you are aware of it too. So swatting, according to Wikipedia, not my favorite source, is a criminal harassment tactic of deceiving an emergency service via means of hoaxing an emergency services dispatcher. So you call 911, you make this bogus claim, and deceiving them into sending police and emergency services and response teams to another person's address. This is triggered by false reporting of a serious law enforcement emergency, say a bomb threat or murder, hostage situation, something really, really serious, or a false report of a mental health emergency, such as reporting that a person is allegedly suicidal or homicidal, may or may not be armed. That type of a thing is called swatting. The term is derived from the law enforcement unit SWAT, which makes sense after you figure that out. Special Weapons and Tactics, a specialized type of police unit in the United States. So, I saw this video. This is what precipitated it. Let's roll tape.
New tonight, it's called swatting. It is a growing problem across the country. The term refers to a hoax 911 call with the goal of diverting emergency resources to an unsuspecting person's home. On News 2 at 4, we told you about a victim who found himself in the middle of a swatting call after he refused to give up his Twitter handle. He was part of a nationwide crime spree targeting people with rare usernames worth thousands of dollars. News 2's Alex Dennis explains how minors are suspected of orchestrating the entire scheme that ended with a local man dead. With a story you'll see only here on News 2.
His neighbor called and said, there's police everywhere, and they think a man has killed a woman and he's on your property. You know, you need to take cover.
It was shocking news for 60-year-old Mark Herring, who lived here off of a sleepy country road in Bethpage.
He went out the house with a gun because he heard someone was on his property. And he sees all these cops around him. And they ask if he is Mark Herring, put your hands up. So he tosses the gun away from him to show he's not a threat. Hands up.
A full response from authorities faced the innocent grandfather who died minutes later.
I believe that he was scared to death, and that is what caused his heart attack.
His family rushed to Sumner Regional Medical Center, where they learned more about Herring's final moments.
They just kept talking about this 911 call that was placed.
It had been like a prank phone call or a swatting phone call.
Months later, they learned about Shane Sonderman, a minor back in April 2020 when the crime was committed.
He was from Tennessee. He's the one that collected all of our information. My address, my sister's, my mom's, my other sister. Like, he put it on a channel on Discord, which is a gaming chat forum.
The private information released for use in an intimidation tactic meant to convince Herring to hand over his one-of-a-kind Twitter handle @Tennessee. Herring refused. Another minor was in on the scheme.
A kid in the United Kingdom made the call to my dad's local police department.
He will not be extradited from the United Kingdom because he is still currently a minor.
Right.
Sonderman is currently behind bars awaiting trial. A federal grand jury indictment claims he had 6 victims across the country. Herring was the only one who died.
They're not playing the game and they're not thinking it's funny. This is legit extortion.
How much money are they selling these handles for?
It's like $3,000, $4,000, like pennies compared to a life.
The family shares Herring's story now for several reasons.
Watch your kids on the internet because they know more than you think they know.
And that those guilty of swatting face tougher penalties.
You've not just changed that one person's life, you've done a ripple effect, and they need to pay for that.
Alex Dennis, News 2.
Sonderman faces a conspiracy charge on a possible 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. He'll be back in court July 21st.
So swatting, it's serious, and I had never heard of such a thing. I don't want to give the criminals good ideas to do this, but I think it is pervasive with a little younger crowd, perhaps. That's what they were implying in this as well. And when I did, look about swatting, it says making false reports to emergency services is a criminal offense in many countries, punishable by fines and imprisonment. In March 2019, a California man was sentenced to 20 years in prison for carrying out a fatal 2017 swatting. So that's about the time that things started. It carries a high risk of violence, causes tax dollars to be wasted by the city or county when responding to a false report of a serious law enforcement emergency, as well as liability if things go wrong. Maybe you want to talk about this in the legislature and get ahead of it a little bit. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's already against the law. I don't know under what code or what the penalty is. It's interesting because in the story it's about extortion, but I could see it being used as retribution.
Right.
Somebody is offended by whatever you say, and so the next thing you know, especially let's say it's someone who's a Second Amendment advocate. What do? Call up the police and say, hey, I heard gunshots. Very interesting. So hopefully the penalties are adequate.
Yeah, I had not really heard the term before seeing the video, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to look into this a little bit more and find out what swatting is, because I just simply hadn't heard of that before. But apparently it's a trend, not really a good one.
No, it's not a good one. I think where it's good is if you're going to rob a bank and then you SWAT. I saw this in a movie. And then you get all the police on the other side of town, and then you can rob the bank.
Look at the danger to people, though. I mean, seriously, this gentleman in this case was so stressed that he had a heart attack, and that is not cool.
No.
That's not cool. When people die, that's not good. So, all right, when we come back, we are going to talk about another couple, perhaps, of Biden's executive orders. Maybe not just one.
Joseph, you're hard at work.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Spas, etc. Yeah, yeah.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you can pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Okay, it's no apologies. You know what? It's segment 5. We're almost ready to go home. Actually, you and I have more work to do tonight.
Yes, we do. It's going to be a longer night.
It's going to be a long night.
That's all right.
All right, folks. Executive orders. There's so many.
Well, we've been through, I don't know how many we've been through, 70 of them, 70-some of them already, but we are on 72, I guess. So
we're on 72, boys. Pull it up.
This is from March 8th, 2021, when he was pretending to do a decree to change people's behavior once again.
Yes.
And this is the executive order on guaranteeing an educational environment free from discrimination on the basis of sex, including sexual orientation or gender identity. You know, it's funny that we've never heard about this on any previous executive orders. It's
You're being sarcastic,
I'm
Lori.
being slightly facetious.
All right, so it says that the Secretary of Education shall review the rule entitled Non-Discrimination on the Basis of Sex in Education Programs or Activities Receiving Federal Financial Assistance, and any other agency actions taken pursuant to that rule. Now, this is going to be very interesting. It's quite a big job. That little rule is 554 pages long. Within the executive order, the president also says within 100 days of the order, so we're already past the 100 days. I don't think it's been accomplished. But he orders the Secretary of Education to review all existing regulations, orders, guidance, documents, policies, and any other similar agency actions, all within 100 days. And that 554 pages, just for that one aspect of non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education and activities.
How many pages for just that?
I mean, that's your federal government at work.
Yeah,
Can you
that is all
imagine?
true.
Hey, you know, Jane and Johnny, I've got this little thing, our policy on sexual discrimination. Yeah, it's 554
Could we
pages.
just maybe let the local people do that rather than having the edict from above? I mean,
it should be.
Seems kind of simple to me.
It should be. Within this executive order, it says in Section 1, the policy It is the policy of my administration that all students should be guaranteed an educational environment free from discrimination on the basis of sex, including discrimination in the form of sexual harassment, which encompasses sexual violence, and including discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Now, overall, that's fine. I mean, we don't want to see discrimination.
Right.
The problem I have with it is what the definition is of discrimination.
That's a great point.
Because, for instance, if someone says, no, my pronouns are she, her, whatever, you know, the X pronouns.
Yeah.
If I don't want to use pretend words, am I discriminating? Well, yes, according to the leftists, I am discriminating. And they expand that word, the definition of that word, so much that it really means anything they want. No, we shouldn't discriminate in terms of government policies, in terms of opportunities, and we don't. It's not there. It's not. It's just
There's
not there.
no there.
There is. There is absolutely no there. And lastly, on this particular executive order. He goes on to say the Secretary of Education shall consider taking additional enforcement actions as appropriate and consistent with applicable law to enforce the policy set forth in Section 1, which we just discussed, as well as legal prohibitions on sexual discrimination in the form of sexual harassment, which encompass, again, sexual violence to the fullest extent permissible under law. Now, what you said here, Lori, applies. They are trying to control everything vis-a-vis the federal government.
Right. Top down.
This is something that should be state to state. They know how best to enact those protections. And instead what we have is the federal government with a clear agenda of division and class and race.
Warfare, right? Yep.
They are going to now set the terms for all 50 states. It's the nature of the leftist agenda, and it just does not belong.
Silliness. Let's move on to another one, shall we? This is number 74. This is a proclamation on honoring the victims of the tragedy in the Atlanta metropolitan area. So as a mark of respect for the victims of the senseless acts of violence perpetrated on March 16, 2021 in the Atlanta metropolitan area, I hereby order that the flag of the United States shall be flown at half-staff. Now, you and I have talked about this before, and I actually have a flag outside where my regular workday is. I can look at this flag, and I see this flag, and for the last couple of days, it's actually been at the top of the flagpole.
What?
Finally. And, you know, it's sad that I feel that way. I'm kind of frustrated that it's making me cynical, that I'm happy when the flag is at the top of the, you know.
I'm totally cynical because, unfortunately, people are using, in the left, and Governor Burgum, are using the half-staff flag as virtue signaling. I mean, hey, look how compassionate I am. We're having the flag down again. It's just too much. The flag goes at the top except for extraordinary circumstances.
Exactly. And because what you do is you tend to take the reverence and the specialness of it out when you do that all the time. When it's constantly down, it just it doesn't make it as special. Nope. It just doesn't. So it's very frustrating.
Going back to the proclamation about the Atlanta shooting.
Got a little triggered.
This is, but that's a great point. I'm glad we transitioned into that. But what we're talking about is the guy that killed, I think it was 8 people, and
shootings.
And 6 of them were Asian.
Yes.
The shooter was white.
So this is pandering? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, it's complete pandering, and it just is doing more of the buy-in into this whole class, race, warfare type of thing. So the guy was mentally ill, and it was a sexual thing. It was not a race thing. It just so happened that the people at the massage parlor happened to be Asian. But what the left portrayed was that this was all about Asian hate crime and white supremacy. It was horrible.
Dividing.
So
that's
because of that, far left Joe decides to make a proclamation honoring the victims. But what about the victims? Right. The numerous victims, week after week, day after day, throughout the United States, in places like Chicago, which are black victims.
How many a weekend?
And many are shot by black perpetrators, but we ignore those because we don't care about victims. We don't care about shooting. We care about the color of the shooter. That's what we care about. They're honoring these victims, and over Independence Day weekend, which I used Independence, not the 4th of July.
Yes, you did. Yay.
There were 100 shooting victims in Chicago.
Oh, man.
100 shooting victims.
Horrendous.
18 were killed.
I bet you probably didn't even hear anything about that either.
Where's
on
Joe
regular-
Biden on this? If he cares so much about shooting victims, why is it he doesn't care about black people
Great point.
in inner city, in Democrat-controlled areas that are shot by other black people or any other color people? Who gives a crap? He doesn't care because it doesn't fit a narrative, and all the leftists care about is the narrative. That's it.
Okay, so what do you want to do next? Do you want to do 75 or do you want to do 76?
How much time do we have left?
We have 2 minutes.
No, not 76. I'm saving that.
All right, we're
I got a
saving
big old bitch about 76, baby.
Okay, well, we'll save that one because it's going to be a longer time. But so let's do 75. So this is a proclamation on National Poison Prevention Week. Woohoo!
Snoozer.
60 years ago, the Congress established National Poison Prevention Week to remind all Americans to stay vigilant and protect our families from the often hidden threat of poisoning. Never has that reminder been more timely than this year. 9 out of 10 poisonings occur inside the home. We have a family friend of ours who was on the poison control tip line. He was the person who would be answering the poison control, and he said there were a lot of calls about super glue incidents.
Is that right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, I think this is another one where the president is just stop.
Yeah.
No, it's not just Joe.
No.
I mean, it's been but think about it. It's been 60 years that they've had this week. It hasn't changed anything. I mean, kids eat stuff that's laying around the house. It's great to have a poison control line.
Yep. It is helpful.
But just, gosh, if I was president, I would stop wasting so much time making stupid proclamations.
So much more
I just
that you
wish
can
they
do.
would.
Yeah, I agree with you too.
And stop making the flag at half-staff.
Yes, please.
Doug,
Please
listen
do
to
it.
me.
Well, I think
Stop.
it starts nationally and then it comes down on that one, unfortunately.
then say
so I'm
no.
gonna give him a pass. Well, yeah.
Nancy Reagan.
Oh, that I
Let
can
me.
agree
I'm going
with
to
that.
send you a little tape.
Okay.
Nancy Reagan, just say no.
Tomorrow, we will be hosting the president of the Bismarck Public School Board and public schools. And also, we're going to bring you an off the cuff again tomorrow. So join us then.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.